Here's the image you want in your mind if you're going to scale a growth mindset across an entire organization. It's the image of a chasm that you're going to cross. At the one side of the chasm is everybody's focused on doing great client work, not as much focused on getting client growth. They probably have lots of lies in their head about what gets in their way. They don't know the right skills. What you want to do is get them to the other side of this chasm where a growth mindset is doable, practical, enjoyable. People know what to do, they enjoy doing it, and they do it across the entire team or organization. Now, if you've got 20 people, you can throw out a mandated training, have everybody go through it at once, and you don't need to really think about scale that much. But if you have 200, 2,000, 20,000 people that are trying to get across the chasm, you need a really strong bridge to get them across. Hi, I'm Mo Bunnell, and I've spent the last 2 decades helping organizations scale client growth across their entire enterprise, from all the way up to multi-billion-dollar organizations, all the way down to $10 and $20 million organizations that are just starting to get going. So here's the thing. Almost every leader in the organizations that they work with knows that client growth is important, but the problem is, before talking to us, almost every leader focuses on the wrong things, and those don't drive the right result long term. So here's a little more clarity on what I usually see. Leader gets really excited. We've got to change things. We've got to grow. We want to have a common system for growth. And they quickly moved to mandatory training, coaching, new behaviors, new incentives. Everything changes. The problem with everybody going through that at once is anything mandatory is going to be met with resistance. When people push on us, our immediate reaction is we want to push back. So if you try to do everything at once, it's a little bit like having a rickety bridge that you're trying to run everybody across the chasm, and it's going to collapse under its own weight. You end up right back where you started, no better off, and you spend a ton of time, energy, and money in trying to change things. Here's what actually works, and we call it the red velvet rope approach. What the red velvet rope approach does is just start with a pilot. And I'm going to show you exactly how to set up that pilot in a moment. But by creating some scarcity about the first group that gets in, and you call it a pilot specifically, and you allow fewer people in that can get in, what happens is you create demand for the entire movement from within. This is like building the scaffolding underneath the bridge to focus on strength of the bridge as opposed to speed of getting people across it in the beginning. The goal of this first group is to get more groups. You're thinking big. You're going to change the whole culture over months or potentially years for a larger organization, but you're going to start small with an initial group, and you're going to let the organization beg you to scale things up one group at a time. And the secret to how you're going to do this, to get other people to ask you to be in the program as opposed to mandating it, is psychology. One of my favorite psychological researchers is Bob Cialdini, and he's world famous for being an expert in influence. He's found the top 6 things that are influential in the human mind, and we're going to use all 6 of them as we scale up the red velvet rope approach. The first, reciprocity. People want to repay those that give to them. So by inviting somebody to be in this really tight initial pilot, they feel like they're getting a gift versus being told to be somewhere at a certain time. The second psychological principle is likability. We say yes to those we like. And if you can build a community of people that are learning how to grow their client growth skills, you're going to develop likability across the group. You're going to develop likability with the facilitators and coaches. Just the time you're getting with people is going to find commonality, and you're going to build likability. The third principle is authority. We tend to trust authority figures. The key here is when you're doing that initial class, and maybe the couple after that, is you want to bring in the number one, the top internal and potentially external authority figures in the business development space to get you started. You want people to feel special. You want them to feel like they're learning from the very best inside and outside your organization. The fourth principle, and this is a big one, scarcity. People want more of what there is less of. So if you're going to start with a first cohort, maybe training and coaching of say 20 people or so, here's the trick. You might want to have about double that number of people apply to be in the program. We love that doubling. It works great. If you go to about 40 people, about 5 or so will say, gosh, I'm too busy. I got other things going on. Can't do it. Let them off the hook. No big deal at all. Release people. You'll get 35 or so people apply. You pick the best 20 candidates. Everybody that makes it wants to be there. They take it more seriously. And guess what? Those 15 that didn't quite get in, guess who's knocking on the door to get into the next cohort? It's them. And then you do it again and again and again. Here's the 5th psychological principle of influence: social proof. It doesn't sound like much when you've got 20 people in a cohort, but if you look at the number of connections between 20 people, it's almost 400. And those 20 people talk to people outside the cohort. Let's say they talk to 10 people each in the organization. That's another 200. So now you've got 500, 600, 700 connections being made between the cohort and outside. And people talk, and people want to do what other people are doing, social proof. And that's what gets new people want to apply to be in cohorts 2, 3, and 4. And the 6th and final principle of influence, really important, is commitment and consistency. Once those 20 people are having results, they're committed to the program and they're having great results because of it, they want to continue. They want more. They want master classes. They want to be involved in the next cohort to teach them. That commitment that you start with just 20 people starts to spread like wildfire throughout the organization. The beauty of thinking big, but starting small with the red velvet rope approach and scaling up from there by allowing other people to ask you to be in the next cohort, it completely changes everything. From before, mandatory, nobody likes that, to after, this is special. This is a big deal. You only get in if we ask you. Totally changes the mindset. Everybody wants it, and they're more committed to making the change that the leader wants. Here are 3 things you need to succeed. Probably my top 3 tips to make this actually work. The first thing, the number one correlation we see from making that first group to turn into a cultural change is choosing people who really want to be there. A lot of people do the wrong thing. They'll say, hey, maybe we should start with the people struggling, or maybe we should start with the people who are the best. You actually want a beautiful mixture of tenure, but the key through line through it is the people who want to be there the most. What's beautiful about that is you've got the best of the best in the room with people who could be, but because everybody wants to be there, they're the ones who are going to be your advocates, the folks running around the organization saying, this was amazing. The second tip I want you to strongly consider is having a couple of your top performers be in the room to help tell stories. Why do I say that? If you've got somebody that's a facilitator, that's leading a workshop, the initiative, the program, what they're going to be great is the science of why things work, the steps to actually make it happen. You want a couple people in the room that everybody reveres, that they look up to, that can tell stories. This lets you combine science and steps from the front of the room with stories from the side to make things work. And when those top performers are basically sharing, I'm still learning at this. Here's how we won that huge institutional client years ago. This is what started it. Everybody's forgotten it by now. When they're able to say what that facilitator says works and here's why, it's incredibly powerful. And a little side benefit, when your top performers are in the room, they get to learn too. And if they only get to improve their skills even one tiny %, that could be tens of millions of dollars to you and your organization. And lastly, here's the third tip that I really want you to consider. Have an application process. Now, I breezed by this before, but a lot of people resist it. It's genius. All you need to do is have 3 or 4 questions. And it's just things like, how much economic value do you think you can bring to the firm if you go through this? What kind of results have you had in the past? How passionate are you about this? How will this strategically help you or your geography or practice area or your product, whatever it is? Just 3 or 4 questions. It doesn't have to be much. By having open-ended questions, when you actually get the applications, let me tell you, you see very quickly who really wants to be in the class and who was just giving lip service to their leader when they got offered to be in the class. Here's how we know this works. Is you can measure the results. We even got a rubric we can send you that lets somebody certify for a new piece of work that was brought in, how much was associated with a program like this. So in one example, we had 18 people that were part of a cohort. Half of them weren't even to the point where they were supposed to bring in business. They were about there, but not quite yet. And half were. That organization brought in over $20 million of new revenue within about a year from only 18 people that they associated with learnings from the program. So when you do this the right way with the right people, the results can be 100x, 200x, or more of your time and energy that you're putting into it. And that's why the fastest way to build this bridge across this chasm, to really have sustainable growth, is not to focus on getting everybody across as fast as possible. It's actually to slow down now to speed up later. Have this small pilot group start with a red velvet rope. Make it special. Make them feel awesome. Get them to deliver amazing results, to take their careers to the next level. And what that effectively does is they're all running around as your advocates, building the scaffolding to focus on the strength of the bridge. And that's what's going to let you take hundreds or thousands of people across it in the future. So if you got value from this and you want to talk more, there's so much nuance here, organization by organization. All you need to do is reach out to us. There's a link down below. There's a QR code here on the screen. Somebody will reach back out to you, probably Emma from our team. We can set up a call. Or if you want to handle it on your own, we've got a complete workbook that we call Winning More. We can just send to you, and it guides you step by step through the entire process. So if you like this video, obviously like, subscribe to the channel, things like that. Probably more importantly, share this with somebody else, because if you're focused on scaling a growth mindset across the team, there's probably a lot of people involved. Send this to them. It'll give you all a framework to discuss and move forward together.